Hello, how are you guys doing today? Welcome to Coffee Doodles, Creating in Quarantine. Today, we're going to be talking about what you can do to stay creative in quarantine. While this is going, I'm going to have a time lapse of a drawing in the background, but I'm going to try this new format where I just do recorded audio. Tell me what you think about this in the comments below. Thank you so much. So, getting into the topic of creating in quarantine, there's a lot of discussion going around about whether you should stay productive, whether you shouldn't stay productive, what you can do and how you can do it. And I fully believe that right now is the ideal time to stay productive, because I know that a lot of people are working from home, but making art and being creative is a great way to heal, to put our focuses on something positive. I think it would be great to come out of this on the other side and actually have something in hand that you can show people and be like, hey, I made this. But there's a lot of other reasons. There's a lot of deeper things going on. I think that's really important to bear witness. What that means is right now we're going through an unprecedented historic moment that will never happen exactly like it is now in the future, and things are changing drastically like they would never changed in the past. So to be able to record what we're feeling, what we're thinking, what we're experiencing now as a document for the future is really important. People are going to look back and say, hey, this is what it was like at that time. Like, this is what people were going through in the first global pandemic quarantine, and what that experience was like for the world, and for individuals of all ages. So it's important to, I think, journal, to record, to create artwork and writing and things that people can look at in the future. Say, this was the quarantine era artist. Who's making the culture right now? We are. We have the power and we have the energy and we have the time to actually get things done that we were never able to do before because we're too busy working in the society and engaging with what we thought we needed to engage with. But now we are free and have the opportunity to try new things, and I think that's really exciting. So what can you do? Like, what can you actually engage with? So I think now what you have the opportunity to do with is explore things that actually interest you. So say you've been wanting to write and you've never written before, take the time to sit down and start giving it a shot. If you don't know how to do it, now is the time to actually learn that skill. Go online, seek out resources, and actually figure out how to do that. And spend time, figuring it out. Because we've got a lot of time on our hands and it's not going to clear up too soon. So now is a great time to learn new skills. YouTube is a great resource. There's plenty of other resources. Udemy, I think, and Skillshare. They all have great resources, great classes on how to do things. And so, I think another part of the equation is workspace. Obviously, as we adjust to working from home, we need to figure out how to work from home and what that looks like. So setting up a home office, setting up a dedicated space where you can actually sit down and work is really important. Only the only tools that you need to be in that space, besides maybe a coffee cup or a couple of plants, should be in that space. Besides that, everything needs to be dedicated to your work, whatever that may be creative work or your actual work. It's all for that and arranging that. I also think it's really important, and this may be difficult for some, but keeping your workspace and your sleeping area separate. I think especially if you're living in a tight, limited space, being able to actually differentiate between where you're resting, where you're turning off, and where you're engaging with work is incredibly important. So set aside, all right, this is my bed, this is where I sleep, this is where I rest. No screens here, only books. This is my workspace, this is my desk, this is my office. Only my computer, my art supplies, my writing utensils, my folders, files, my phone. That's where this lives. Finding things, spaces where things live is really important, and will save your life as you go forward. And then where you play, like this is the living room. The living room has the TV. We watch Netflix here. We play video games here. Keeping that separate, compartmentalizing where you live your life in each area is really important. And setting aside time, so like what do? You wake up in the morning, you eat your breakfast, you have a cup of coffee. For me, I do a coffee doodle sometimes, and that just sets me into a creative mode for the rest of the day. It's a tool that I use to make myself thinking about drawing and creating as I move forward through my day. So you get up, you have a cup of coffee, you eat breakfast, you sit down, you begin working, and having rituals and sort of these ceremonial daily activities will program yourself almost in a Pavlovian way to be more creative in this time, being aware of your own patterns, like what is your ideal mode of productivity? When do you feel the most productive? I always felt more productive in the evenings. For whatever reason, my energy pattern, if you will, pushed into the evening, and I always felt like I could do more then. And then around like 10 o'clock at night, I'd be like, okay, all right, I've done my work, I've done my job for the day. I can sit down and I can relax. And figuring that out and learning about yourself and understanding and being self-aware about what works for you is really important. But being honest, there's a difference between being productive and being a procrastinator. And I need to learn that, of course. So understanding your patterns is really important. And not getting lost in like the lack of structure. It's very easy to do that, I think. It's like getting lost in, not having to do something. If you have a job and if you're working from home, then obviously you will have more structure than if you don't. Working from home is obviously, you have responsibilities and you have to abide by those responsibilities. But if you were sort of just at the house, not having that structure, it's important to implement that and not get lost in it. That's the biggest thing that I've been seeing people talk about online, is just having that daily structure and patterns and whatnot, and not get bogged down by the emotional turmoil of the news. I know that the New York Times app gives free information out about what's happening in the world, but not just getting lost in that and trying to look at the positives. And the positives are that we have an opportunity to actually make work that matters, so maybe another thing is like, I think that like using art and creative endeavors as like a form of therapy. We all are trying to understand what's happening. So writing about it, making art about it, making webcomics can help us to process and understand what's happening in the world. I know that I make a lot of depression comics as a way to process my own emotions. So I think that like if we're afraid and if we're feeling uncomfortable about what's happening in the world, using the tools that we have and the resources that we have to actually work through that can be a great way to remain creative. Journaling, writing down your ideas and emotions, and using that as a platform to go forward and actually make something is a great way. As an illustrator, I use writing often as a platform for new ideas. I think that the writing drives the image in many ways. And that's important. So I think that also what can be done, don't spend days on end just sitting inside. I think that depending where you are, if you're able to get outside and take walks, ride bike, walk your dog, hike if you can, if there's trails near you, and just be in nature. You'll be aware of the fact that nature continues despite what's happening to the human race. Animals still living their day to day, and use that time to reflect on how you're feeling, think about what you can do, brainstorm ideas about what you could create, what you could write about, what projects you could start. Take notes, carry a small moleskin with you as you walk. Write about what you are feeling and thinking. What can you start? What can you start right now? What seeds can you plant at this moment? And what can grow? I think that's a big part of it is we can tend our creative gardens now. Read books, What art book did you buy off Amazon last week or last year that you've been ignoring on the shelf that could, feed your soul? Read it, sit down, study it, pick up that Pixar movie art of book and see what's going on, look through it, do studies, watch tutorial videos, take online courses, fill your soul, learn tools. Is there a software that you've been wanting to learn? Blender, learn the 3D model. Is there a technique that you've wanted to try? That camera that you bought, you haven't been able to take out, you want to learn macro photography? Look at the tools that you have at your disposal at the moment. Which ones are you neglecting? Which ones are you letting go of the wayside? Pick them up, dust them off, try them out. Have you not tried watercolor in a long time? Make some watercolor paintings. And, look about your space. Be like, all right, what do I have here? What have I not used in a long time? Those few old canvases that you've not picked up in a long time. Dust them off. Give it a shot, I think that, we fall into patterns in our daily life and our normal life, if you will, and breaking out of that and trying things that you haven't done in a long time or used to really love, and bringing them back into your life can be refreshing and restorative and gets you back into the mindset of the path that you've been walking, and that's another thing you can do is tend your creative garden. I think that spending less time on social media, which is, everyone talks about that. Oh, spend less time on social media. But I think spending less time comparing yourself to other people. I think right now, as you're in isolation, there's no voice on your shoulder telling you what you have to do, what you should do. And we can actually engage with what we want to do, what we want to spend our time on. And, dig into that, dive in, decide, hey, this is what I wanted to do this whole time, and ignore the outside influence. Draw the way that you want to draw, write the things you want to write. Don't feel like you're an outsider or you're a fraud. You're not a fraud. You have a genuine inclination to engage with something, and you should do that. It's important. If you want to write poetry but you've never written poetry before, read up on it. There's resources. You can go out and then decide to start. It's going to be weird at first, but the more you do it, it will get comfortable. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were saying how they thought they were going to start something in in quarantine, and they'd have some sort of secret hidden talent. But the truth is that talent it's not hidden. It's hard work. So the first ones are going to be really, really bad, and we're going to feel bad about that. We'll sit down and we'll write a poem, and it's going to be cliche, and it's going to be poorly written and poorly structured, but the more you do it, the more beautiful it will become. And I believe that to be absolutely true. So, at the beginning of quarantine, you start to draw, and it's bad, and by the end of it, you're actually going to be somewhere. And that goes back to what I was saying about tending garden. Tend your creative garden. So, yeah. What else? Work on your inner space, I think, is really important. If a lot of us are, sitting down and deciding that we want to make something, and we're hitting this roadblock, right? We feel depressed and anxious, and I think that what's happening is we're processing our traumas and our discomforts and our anxieties and things that we've pushed down. But now that everything's quiet, we are suddenly realizing that we have this unprocessed mess in our hearts and our bodies, and it's making it difficult for us to get up and actually work through things. I'm going through it. I feel a little bit lost right now, but I think that, meditate on it. Don't push it away. Sit in it, sit in the quiet, and start facing it. And I think that if we, spend this time working on our inner spaces and our inner selves, we will come out of this stronger, more compassionate people, ready to be more openly creative, honestly creative, than we were going into this. I think that we're reconsidering what's important to ourselves, faced with this reality of losing loved ones or losing connections or not being able to do the things that we thought we wanted to do before. And we suddenly realize that we need to make decisions about what's important to us. Do we continue on these paths that we're on, doing a job that we don't like, or being the person that we don't like? And we have to decide, what do we do with that? Where do we go with that? And the truth is that we need to work through it. So using this time to process and work on the inner space of who we want to be, we can finally make that decision for ourselves and correct course. This is the oasis in the storm on the seas, and we can take a moment refuel, get water, and correct course and say, all right, we've been going northwest for this amount of time, and I've just been hitting stormy seas ever since, and now I'm going to sit on this island for a minute, and I'm going to decide that this is not the direction I want to go, and we're going to go a different direction. And this can be, a literal metaphor if we're, going somewhere, or it can be applied to our creative lives. I don't want to do background paintings anymore. I want to be an oil painter. We have that moment to decide. We can choose to create what it is we want to create. I just don't want to be a graphic designer anymore. I want to make zines and write poetry, whatever it is. Correct course, using this time to correct course. That's the next point. And working through the anxieties, what are we ignoring in our lives? What are the issues that we don't want to talk about? What are the things that we don't want to work through? This is a great time to get sober. If you're struggling with substances, this is a great time to put those things down and be alone with yourself. Face the things that are troubling you, that you want to drown out, and let it be. Just let it go. Read the Bible, if that's what you want. I think that exploring multiple schools of thought, read philosophy, read the Bible, read different religions, learn about a group of people who you've never heard of before. Fill your cup up. This is the time to really saturate yourself in all the things that you've never had the opportunity to investigate, and I think that's exciting. Writing down questions in your journaling, if you're journaling, I don't know. Present yourself with questions that you want answered about, be it yourself or others or the world, and do an investigation into that. Question your own values. Question the world's values. Question everything that is happening that you don't understand. And, write about it. What it is about this world that makes you uncomfortable. Draw a picture. Make it into art. Say, I really don't understand why the world is the way it is. I'm going to make a comic about it. That's a new project right there, Write a screenplay. We watch a lot of Netflix, we're watching movies. What's the story you want to tell? Is it about the questions that you want to ask? So I hope you guys got something out of this video in this new format. If you guys like the new format, let me know. Put a comment in the comments below. I'm also thinking about starting SoundCloud to put up just the audio of this content. So I'll put the videos with the drawings on YouTube, and I will put the audio only on SoundCloud as just sort of a way to expand the content base. So if you guys like that, let me know. If you guys want to see anything specific, please put it in the comments below. Thanks for coming out to this awesome video of doodling in quarantine, coffee doodles. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Please stay inside. Please use hand sanitizer. Don't cough in anyone's face, and try not to go in public. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day. Bye.